Hi, I'm Hblack and today I'm going to be talking about Moore's Law. Moore's Law refers to a prediction that Gordon E. Moore made in 1965. He claimed that the number of transistors that can be packed into a given unit of space will double every 12 months. However, in 1975 he revised his forecast to be doubling every 24 months, which is the Moore's Law that we know of today. Before I continue, Moore's Law is not actually a physical law like other scientific laws. It was named by the press following an interview with an associate of Moore, Carver Mead. So what is a transistor? A basic transistor is like an electrical on-off switch for current, and where the current is allowed through the transistor corresponds to a value of either 1 or 0, which is the basis of how computers work today in the modern age, and is also the basis of binary. As transistors and the spacing between transistors is becoming smaller, the electronics we use in our daily life can become smaller and more powerful. For example, the Ryzen 3100 is a 7 nanometer chipset, which means that the spacing between the individual transistors on that CPU is the equivalent to 2.8 strands of helical DNA, and those are just the consumer grade chips that we have in 2020. There are 3 nanometer chipsets currently being developed for phones, which would have spaces between the transistors the size of roughly 1.2 helical strands of DNA. However, after 2010 this law began to slow down. In 2015 Moore stated, "I see Moore's Law dying in the next decade or so." So after 35 years of spurring the creation of smaller electrical components, this model of the industry will end? Well, yeah, of course it will. There are physical limitations to the amount of transistors that can fit in a given space, with some of the constraints being the size of the transistor. There is eventually going to be as small as transistor possible, and after that point, despite however hard we may try, we cannot make our transistors any denser or more compact. How hot the electronics get. If the transistors are too close, it will become harder to deal with thermals. This is quite a big problem in server manufacturing because people don't want to pay for new, stronger cooling systems for their server rooms. The quantum tunneling of electrons is a problem because it has the potential to mess with a different transistor, which causes errors with the computer due to false signals, so that needs to be prevented from happening. And when you have electronics on the atomic level, the atoms themselves can be too unstable to carry current reliably. And lastly, economic. There is simply not as much demand for smaller densities of transistors, since for most businesses they don't need the highest end technology for their purposes, and even a chip from 2010 would probably be fine for working in a normal office job. This means that less money is put into research and development, which means that new technologies will unfortunately just not happen due to lack of funding. However, it's not as though Moore's Law is all that matters in terms of computer performance. There are various factors that could speed up the computers of the future, such as three-dimensional networks of transistors, allowing the transistor model to be scaled in a way that isn't two-dimensional like in Moore's prediction. Improving software which takes advantage of the speed that processors already have but we are not currently using. Specialized processors which will be specifically engineered to have a single purpose, like a GPU but for other tasks. Changing the materials which we use to make transistors, like using graphene, which is a highly conductive material. There are also more radical ways that a computer can be made, which can massively improve its performance, like quantum computing, which allows for superpositions of ones and zeros, which I don't understand. Or biological computers, which are used making DNA, which can respond to certain stimuli and give a response, which I also don't understand. Overall, science is not going to stop progressing anytime soon. It's like Kurzweil's law of accelerating returns, in that whenever we reach a peak of one method, we will find a new and better way to do it. And it appears to me we just haven't found our future project yet. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like and a comment. And if you want to see videos like it in the future, then subscribe and hit the bell icon.